This naturalrefrigerants.com article is being read by an automated voice. NASRC survey, Transcritical CO2 will dominate in new U.S. retail stores. Through 2029 by Michael Gary, published March 25, 2026. Transcritical CO2 systems are poised to be the dominant refrigeration technology in new U.S. food retail stores, operated by chains through 2029, according to the Food Retailer Survey Report, just released by the North American Sustainable Refrigeration Council, NASRC. The U.S. food retail industry is experiencing a seismic shift away from hydrofluorocarbons, HFCs, toward low global warming potential, GWP, alternatives, such as CO2, the report said. The Southeast U.S. is expected to have the largest growth in transcritical CO2 systems, despite the warmer climate in that region, the report said. The NASRC, a nonprofit focused on promoting adoption of natural refrigerants by food retailers, surveyed 18 chains represent over 29,000 U.S. locations across grocery, supermarket, convenience, and pharmacy formats. Approximately 73% of respondents are grocery and supermarket operators, while 27% run convenience and pharmacy formats. All participants operate at least 100 stores. NASRC has been running this annual survey since 2023. The respondents collectively reported plans for over 2,000 new stores between 2025 and 2029. Of those, transcritical CO2 systems were selected as the refrigeration system at 1,470 sites, along with 46 stores installing systems that use CO2 as a secondary fluid and 82 locations with propane micro-distributed systems. Retailers reported plans to replace approximately 13,400 systems by 2029 across a mix of architectures, including 2,915 transcritical CO2, 22%, 3,518 secondary CO2, 26%, 4,000 pumped glycol, 30%, and 2,625 HFC/HFO blend, 20%. The report noted that for many respondents, secondary systems are seen as a way to stretch the dollar across large fleets while still delivering meaningful emissions reductions and future flexibility. In 2029, counting both new stores and remodels, the survey projected that 19% of stores will use transcritical CO2 systems, 48% HFC or HCFC systems, and 23% HFO blends. Total CO2 systems, including transcritical and secondary new and replacement, are projected to surpass 10,000 by 2029, significantly above trajectory in the 2024 survey. CO2 condensing units, which have only recently been introduced in the U.S., are viewed as add-ons to existing stores to support new refrigerated loads, not as primary system architectures. Projections show strong year-over-year growth in CO2 condensing unit installations, with cumulative new installations exceeding 8,200 units by 2029. Several retailers and OEMs view this segment as a strategic bridge technology, particularly if incentive programs can help scale volume and drive down costs, the report said. Currently, just 5% of respondents use transcritical CO2, while 78% use HFCs or HCFCs, and 10% employ HFO blends. The persistent use of R22 and other HCFCs was found to be higher than regulators often assume, said the report. The HFC/HFO blend entries in the survey typically reflect refrigerant changeouts on existing equipment, not full system replacements, the report said. However, in discussion, retailers and NASRC repeatedly emphasized that adoption of A2L, mildly flammable refrigerants, which include HFOs and HFO blends, remains limited in near-term planning for many chains. Proceeding despite uncertainty. In its 2024 survey, the NASRC found that retailers projected a step change in CO2 adoption, coinciding with compliance dates set by the Technology Transitions Rule of the USAIM Act. Last year, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency introduced a proposed reconsideration of the rule that would postpone some compliance dates. However, the current survey shows a flattened continuous growth as retailers move forward, said the report. Participants noted that this acceleration has occurred despite regulatory uncertainty, suggesting that corporate climate commitments, refrigerant risk management, and internal planning are now primary drivers of CO2 adoption among large chains, the report said. Still, regulatory requirements remain the top driver to install CO2 systems, including existing and anticipated HFC phase-down rules under the AIM Act and state programs. The AIM Act phase-down curve, particularly the sharp reduction in available baseline in 2029, is shaping long-term thinking about refrigerant risk and total cost of ownership, said the report. In addition, using natural refrigerants is seen as future-proofing against additional restrictions and avoiding stranded investments in refrigerants that may face availability, cost, or compliance challenges. In open-ended responses, retailers characterize CO2 as a long-term solution, aligned with refrigerant phase-down goals, and highlighted its very low GWP as a core environmental benefit. The lack of skilled technicians remains a barrier to transitioning to CO2. With regard to upfront capital cost, respondents distinguished between new build scenarios, where CO2 system cost premiums are often in the range of roughly 10 to 20% compared to R448A/R449ADX for large chains, and replacement scenarios where the cost difference between a gas retrofit and a complete CO2 rebuild can be orders of magnitude higher. Regarding reliability of CO2 systems, retailers cited uptime risks tied to controls complexity, design optimization for local climates, and the consequences of release events. But they added that many of these issues are tightly coupled to training and design practices rather than inherent to CO2 itself, said the report. Additional concerns surfaced, including supply chain capacity for CO2 racks and components, long lead times, and uncertainty around efficiency impacts in different climates. While these did not always register as top-ranked barriers in the survey scoring, they are clearly influencing the pace of adoption, the report said. These survey results are informing the NASRC's incentive program design, expansion of training initiatives, and development of educational resources. Atmosphere, publisher of naturalrefrigerants.com, publishes estimates of current natural refrigerant system installations around the world based on manufacturer input in an annual market report. The 2025 report will be published in April